In 1932, the Australian military brought some machine guns to fight some flightless birds and lost. Let's talk about it. Let's get started with the important events leading up to this. World War I ended in 1919. Why is that important? Because the Australian government gave a bunch of the returning veterans farmland in Western Australia. The land they were giving out was called marginal land, and it was called that because of the type of crops that could be grown, and generally it just was not profitable if you had to factor in the cost of paying for the land. So the government gave it away. It's a win-win. The veterans, they get the land, the government gets people to move there. These veterans turned settlers, got to work, and being how the land was marginal, it was limited in what they could grow, so they also kept livestock and watering holes and other stuff like that to make the most use out of it. This worked until around 1929 when this little thing called the Great Depression began in the United States. It started with the stock market crashing. Not good. And then the Dust Bowl hit in the Midwest. Also, not good. The US imposed tariffs to help the economy, and this affected everyone in the world. And since we're talking about Australia, most of their economy centered around exports, so they got hit really hard. Also, very not good. As the Depression started taking hold, the Australian government talked those farmers into planting wheat with the promise of it being subsidized. And this drove the price of wheat down and down and down. If you take the low price combined with the government not actually paying out those subsidies, the farmers were pissed. And by 1932, the situation was at a head with the farmers threatening to not give them the wheat, even as they got ready to harvest. It makes sense to me. They said they were going to pay for this, and they didn't, so they don't get the wheat. All of this was fueling the secession movement. Long story short, Western Australia was pissed off and was holding a vote to leave soon, so it was already a tense situation. Then the Emus showed up. Standing roughly 6 foot tall and between 80 and 120 pounds, this flock numbered around 20,000. They just got done with their breeding season inland and was heading to the coast. Since they're flightless birds, they were walking. And on the way to the coast, they find the farmer settlements with readily available water for the livestock and wheat they could eat that was growing on miles and miles of cleared land, so they decided to stay. In doing so, to get to the wheat, they ended up breaking down fences, and they ruined millions of pounds of crops. And with the fences out of the way, it allowed smaller rodents getting in there and doing further damage, which is very not good for anyone. To the vets living on this land, there was an obvious solution. Machine guns. They knew machine guns are awesome. We know machine guns are awesome. They just want a war with them. Certainly they can take out some birds. The machine gun at the time was the Lewis gun. It was chambered in several different calibers, but this one was most likely chambered in .303 British, and it fired between 500 to 600 rounds per minute. Seems like a pretty simple solution to me. I mean, who would you choose? A couple guys with machine guns or birds? So they went to talk to the Minister of Defense, a man by the name of Sir George Pierce, about getting some guns out there to take care of this problem. The defense minister, thinking it would be good target practice for some troops, and they could also use the hides to make hats. That's real. That's one of the reasons the feathers and the hide are components in the hats for the light horsemen. So, the proposed deal. The government would provide the troops, guns, and transport. The farmers were to provide food, lodging, and pay for ammo, but only the troops get to shoot the machine guns. I guess no matter what time period, ammo is also expensive. But the deal was struck. Pretty sure the politicians in the federal government let this happen to be seen as helping the farmers because of that whole lying to them about subsidies and that succession vote thing coming up. So they hired a camera crew because, like all governments, they don't want to do anything good without being able to tell the entire world about it. A unit from the Royal Australian Artillery was sent under the command of a major by the name of Gwynedd Win Audrey Meredith. He was accompanied by Sergeant S. McMurray and Gunner J. O'Halloran. I looked, I couldn't find the first names of the enlisted that went with them. I don't understand I don't know why I can't find their first names. I mean, the major, that guy had 5 names and they knew every one of them. The 3 men armed with 2 Lewis guns and 10,000 rounds of ammo. Their orders? Collect 100 emu skins to make hats. Their plan? Find a group of birds, send them to the hat factory, simple as. This operation was supposed to start late October, but rain caused the birds to spread out all over the place, which isn't ideal for solving a problem with the machine gun, so they waited it out. And finally, on November 2nd, they arrived in Campion, where a group of about 50 emus were spotted. As the men approached, they opened fire and didn't hit anything. The birds were out of range, so I guess the minister was on to something about them needing practice. But then they snuck closer and opened up in a classic ambush style, just as they planned, but then the birds employed their plan of fucking running away. In the ambush, a number of the birds were killed, and this scattered the rest of the birds into smaller groups. Later that day, they found one of the other smaller groups, and perhaps a dozen or so were killed. 2 days later, November 4th, the birds regrouped and were on the move again to a nearby dam. This group was reported by scouts to be about 1,000. So the major set an ambush. This time the plan was to lie in wait until they got much closer. The birds approached and they opened fire and they wiped out the flock. No, of course not. The gun jammed. They got like 12 of them before the birds executed their battle plan flawlessly, which was running away again. Over the next few days, the major decided to move south where the emus were reported to be fairly tame. November 6th. Day 4 of the campaign, observers noted
each pack seems to have its own leader now. A big black-plumed bird which stands fully 6 feet high and keeps watch while his mates carry out their work destruction and warns them of our approach.
the humans changed tactics and mounted a machine gun to a truck, but the truck was too slow and the terrain was too bumpy for the gunner to actually shoot. And although it was a change of plans from the sneaking up and shooting them, the birds stuck to their master battle plan of, well, you guessed it, they ran away. Again, November 8th. Members in the Australian House started talking about how negative the coverage was in the media. The media claimed there was only a few emus that got killed and over 2,500 rounds of ammunition was spent. They had to be mad that all the cameras showed and the articles written only told the world that the military got outclassed and outmaneuvered by the great tacticians of the bird generals, with their battle plan of running away. So the troops were withdrawn. But despite that, the good news is, in the Major's official report, his men did not suffer any casualties, and he is even quoted as saying,
"If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks. They are like Zulus, whom even dum-dum bullets could not stop."
Dum-dum bullets are basically old-timey hollow points. A bird scientist by the name of Dominic Cervantes said,
"The machine gunner's dreams of point-blank fire into serried masses of emus were soon dissipated. The Emu Command had evidently ordered guerrilla tactics, and its unwieldy army soon split up into innumerable small units that made use of the military equipment uneconomic. A crestfallen field force, therefore, withdrew from the combat area after about a month."
The translation, get fucked, dumbass. This whole thing is stupid. After the men left, the Emu Command ordered to resume operations and the farmers badly needed help. It got to the point where even the Premier of Western Australia, a man by the name of James Mitchell, threw his political weight behind it, and being how the whole world had a front seat to them losing to the emus the first time thanks to that camera crew they sent, the Minister of Defense was ready to give it another go as well. I couldn't figure out a better way to phrase this, so what Wikipedia said was,
Although the military had agreed to lend the guns to the Western Australian government on the expectation that they would provide the necessary people, Meredith was once again placed in the field due to an apparent lack of experienced machine gunners in the state.
So basically, it's like the National Guard asking the Secretary of Defense to borrow some machine guns, then figuring out that none of them even know how to use it and having to send troops of their own anyway. November 13th. They got a better start this go around, and between the 13th and 14th of November, they killed 40 birds. I guess they adapted to the tactics of the birds just running away, and they kept this momentum up until the soldiers were averaging about 100 birds a week. December 10th, they were finally recalled. The major stated in his report that 986 birds were confirmed dead using 9,860 rounds of ammo. So 10 rounds a bird on average. Not bad considering that they could take over countries and were built like tanks. Plus, a machine gun isn't a precision weapon, it's more of an accuracy by volume system. He also claimed another 2,500 were wounded and died elsewhere. I don't really believe that. With the men recalled back to base, that ended the Emu War, but not the emu problem. The farmers went on to ask for help in 1934, 1943, and 1948, and they were told no. Instead, the government brought back a bounty system that they had in 1923. I'm assuming they got rid of it because of the Great Depression and the whole not even being able to pay the subsidies out to the farmers, but it was also a lot more effective, like a lot more. You know how the soldiers were killing up to about 100 birds a week? 57,034 birds dead in a 6-month period in 1934. Who knew that incentivizing people to take care of their own problems so the government didn't have to do anything would be more effective? But anyway, I digress. Between the bounties and better fences. Okay. Between the bounties and better fences, the emu problem started to resolve itself. I'm probably sure you're wondering why they didn't think about fences as a better solution to begin with, but let me ask you a question. If you were given the choice of solving a problem with a fence or a machine gun, which one would you pick? I'm picking the machine gun all day. I will invent problems if I can solve them with a machine gun. The thing about this that trips me out here is the cultural differences between the national birds. I live in America. Our national bird is the bald eagle. Majestic, powerful, federally protected, endangered species. But in the land down under, their national bird is a pest that they will pay you to kill.